Captivating islands.
It's like the world's been photoshopped.
Exploring unique lives.
Great community and lovely life.
Across our isles.
What I'm grateful for is this is on my doorstep.
A new series, Our Tiny Islands, on More 4. Mondays at 9.
I'm marrying a complete stranger.
Get ready for MAFS USA.
I am choosing to start with commitment.
The show where love does prevail.
Stop.
That is, until it don't.
There's something I need to tell you. I'm pregnant.
Brand new Married at First Sight USA on E4. Coming soon.
Moi, c'est Panda.
Walter presents Panda on More 4. Stream or watch tonight at 9.
I still feel haunted, really, by the events of that night.
Salisbury Poisonings, The Untold Story on Channel 4. Stream or watch Wednesdays at 9.
The Clinton affair was the scandal of the century. Clive Owen is a president in hot water. Stream American Crime Story Impeachment. Heart-to-hearts about life, followed by a tasty pint. Chris Packham joins Alexander Armstrong for a perfect pub walk at 8 o'clock. That's after an hour of Channel 4 News with Krishnan Guru Murthy in Westminster and Jackie Long in Cardiff. And there will be flashing images.
Historic defeats for Labour in England, Wales and Scotland. Keir Starmer's future was already in doubt. Is the future of Labour as a national party of government now also in peril?
We just fought a campaign with our main slogan, Vote Reform, Get Starmer Out. I think that's been quite effective. And even though these are local elections, we all know that national politics has a massive, massive impact.
Two-party politics is not just dying, it is dead and it is buried.
Good evening from Westminster. The Labour Party is in trouble right across Britain tonight as results that were once unimaginable have become reality. Their historic citadels overrun by Reform UK, the Greens and Plaid Cymru. Their attempts to take on the SNP, a miserable failure. Labour MPs, when they gather behind me next week, must work out whether this was the kind of election result that merely buffets a Prime Minister under pressure or the kind that means politics will never be the same again. They must decide Keir Starmer's future. There are a few calls for him to go, but not yet, with many privately hoping he'll announce a timetable to quit to give them time to work out who and what next. Tonight, our politics is in flux, with no certainty when or how things will land.
Good evening and welcome to Cardiff. If it is devastation for Labour across England, here it's come close to annihilation as a century of political dominance comes to an end. For the nationalists of Plaid Cymru, this is an historic day and the first step, they hope, to the end of the United Kingdom and an independent Wales.
I'll be live in Scotland, where the SNP will remain the largest party as Labour's challenge falters.
Now, results are still coming in, but the winners and losers in these local elections are already clear. In England, with many seats left to declare, Reform has made by far the greatest gains, winning over 1,000 council seats so far, while Labour has lost the same amount. The Conservatives, the official opposition party, have also suffered significant losses, while the Greens and Liberal Democrats have both made decent gains. When it comes to councils, Reform has taken control of several, including Suffolk and Sunderland. Many, though, have been left with no overall control. And this is the picture in Wales. Now, we can't make a direct comparison with the last Senedd vote in 2021 because the voting system has changed significantly. But what is clear is that Labour has been reduced to a small rump in the Welsh Parliament, while Reform is now in second place. Plaid Cymru is the largest party, but has fallen short of a majority. This is the new makeup of the Senedd tonight. And we'll have the latest results from Scotland in a moment. Now, council elections are often described as a referendum on the governing party, and Labour's losses today suggest, at best, widespread dissatisfaction towards the party, and at worst, a resounding vote against Keir Starmer's leadership. But despite these results, the Prime Minister has insisted he is not going anywhere. Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, reports.
Reform leads the field and the others limp behind them. Nigel Farage's party didn't even exist when today's seats were last contested, but the party's made giant leaps in England, Wales and Scotland. With Green advances too, the kaleidoscope of Britain's politics hasn't just been shaken, it's been thrown to the floor, then stamped on. For the first time ever, Wales and Scotland will both be led by parties that want to break up the United Kingdom. Wales elected Plaid Cymru into first position and dispatched Labour, its leading political force since all had the vote, with humiliating contempt. Wales's First Minister was amongst the Labour casualties. Heads of government within the UK don't lose their seats in elections until now.
The age of two-party dominance is dead. We need to recognise that multiple parties are now in contention across Wales.
Plaid Cymru now stands ready to take the necessary steps to form the next government of Wales.
A year ago, Labour dreamt of taking back Scotland at this moment. But the unpopularity of John Swinney's SNP government was as nothing to the hostility towards the UK Labour government.
This is a landmark moment for the Scottish National Party. We've been in government for 19 years and it is very clear now from the early results that we will emerge as the leading party in Scottish politics by a very significant margin.
Across England, reform stole what had been Labour's heartlands.
We're proving in a big way we can win in areas that Labour have dominated, frankly, since the end of World War I.
But these campaigns are tough. Yeah. Hard yards.
Keir Starmer said he'd heard the voters' pained voices and acknowledged the government's unnecessary mistakes.
The results are tough. They are very tough. And there is no sugarcoating this. We have lost brilliant Labour representatives across the country.
Many of them in normally solid Labour areas like the North West. Labour lost all the seats it was defending on Wigan Council to Reform, and nearly all the seats it was defending in Tameside, Angela Rayner's constituency, also to Reform.
We have absolutely torn the most massive historic chunk out of the Labour vote in the north of England. I look at the North West, at places like Tameside and elsewhere, and we're winning a remarkable number of seats.
In Labour's historic bastion of the North East, the party lost nearly all the seats it was defending to Reform. In Hartlepool, it lost all the seats it was defending to Reform. Hartlepool's MP in no doubt what should follow for Keir Starmer.
I think the Prime Minister should set out a very clear timetable for his own departure, to allow an orderly transition and allow candidates to put forward a bold prospectus for the country. I think we've been too timid.
Labour's disastrous results have turned their general election slogan into a looming question. Should Labour change direction, change leader?
PM, to be clear, you are not going to resign.
No, I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into chaos. We were elected to deal with these challenges, and that's what we will do.
So far, few new voices have emerged from Labour's gloom calling for Keir Starmer to go. But an intense debate on whether the party needs to move left to win back defectors to the Greens has resumed.
I'm not convinced that we have lost voters to Reform. I think we have had slippage to the more progressive parties, and I think that is a serious conversation that the Prime Minister needs to have with the Parliamentary Labour Party about what direction we're going to go in.
Those people who want to sit on the opposition benches, then that's the way, and they want to push the party in that direction. Off you go. But I'm determined to win the next general election. We have to have a government that understands voters are disenfranchised because we no longer listen to them, we no longer understand them, and we no longer focus investment and energy into constituents that are in the red wall areas.
Most of Keir Starmer's closest advisers as Labour leader have tended to push him to focus on red wall voters.
I mean, what we're dealing with is kind of industrial scale voter disillusionment, right? People who feel that the social contract that they have made with the government simply doesn't work anymore. The people that are most impacted by that are working class voters up and down the country. It's kind of Labour's moral mission as well as a kind of electoral mission to serve that group of people. And that is where I think we need to be.
Thursday's voting looks like it's cemented Britain's fractured politics, with new parties pronouncing the dawn of a new era.
Two-party politics is not just dying, it is dead and it is buried. And actually, whether it's here that Labour have been rejected or whether we're seeing around the country, it's very clear that the new politics is the Green Party versus Reform.
Zach Polanski's Greens won the mayoralty in the London borough of Hackney and hope to be celebrating many more advances into Labour's inner city terrain in the hours to come.
I said that we were going to rebuild after our worst defeat ever, and we can see those signs of renewal everywhere that we are standing.
The Tories trumpeted their good news, like winning back the London borough of Westminster, but overall they're still enduring net losses, including in Essex, Kenny Badenoch's political backyard.
The sun is shining in Portsmouth!
Ed Davey, as usual damp,
Turn around to the cameras.
celebrated the Lib Dems' gains, like Portsmouth Council, and said the Greens and Reform UK were both forms of extreme populism.
The old parties are out, and we are the only party offering the change that Britain needs.
Ignoring his own party's 19th century roots,
Chocolate, thank you.
everyone wanting to freshen up their political image as the voters flash their teeth and look for new political forces.
And Gary is with me now.
Well, the number 10 regime, the core defence team have been running hot this afternoon, spewing out messages of support for Keir Starmer endorsements. They've had a bit of practice, of course, with two alleged coup attempts against Keir Starmer in the recent past. They think they're getting quite good at this, I think. And all these endorsements are coming out, and I think they're sitting there probably giving themselves a bit of a slight sigh of relief, noticing that there haven't really been anything beyond the usual suspects in terms of Labour people calling for him to go now. What a few people have said, new voices on the block saying he should stand down before the general election. I think they'll live with that for now, count that a bit of a win. One of the other interesting things about the whole sort of potential Labour leadership psychodrama, which he wants to avoid, but which some people still desperately want to happen, is that when you look at the sort of seats where Andy Burnham, who commands perhaps the broadest support in the Labour Party to replace Keir Starmer, the sort of seats where he might be able to try and come into Parliament in order to take over the leadership, well, they're not looking very plausible on the basis of last night's drubbing for Labour in the North West, as you saw in that report. There's one other question about where Keir Starmer now takes strategy in the Labour Party, and that's going to be a heated debate that you can see hurtling towards you. And there's a contested piece of psephology in all these numbers. A lot of people are saying that there weren't direct transfers of vote from former Labour supporters to Reform. And it's quite key whether that happened or not. It's very disputed. But if that did happen, well, then maybe Keir Starmer should carry on with some of the policies he has been pursuing, like the Shabana Mahmood agenda in the Home Office. If not, other people are saying, well, he needs to move off in the green direction. I just want to take you to a couple of numbers that just jump out from these extraordinary results coming out from last night. In some of these seats in Wales, Labour MPs were elected in the general election with around 50% of the vote. Labour candidates are in the same seat are getting about 10% in some seats. Another one, Labour is losing around 57% of the councillors who are standing for re-election. They're going down to defeat. That's not viable. That's not normal. And one last one. Because of the multi-party system, we're seeing people getting elected on 20% to become a councillor. And related to that, Reform are having this terrific day in the sunshine on around national equivalent share, we think, around 26% of the vote. That's not an enormous amount of votes. And if you're a Labour figure trying to take some comfort, you might think somehow, somewhere along the track, that might be beatable.
Thanks, Gary. Well, I'm joined now by Liz Kendall, the Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
I mean, these are catastrophic results for you in many, many areas. You're part of this leadership. It is your strategy that has failed. Do you accept the responsibility?
Yes.
And what's going to change?
We have to change. Let me just start by saying there's no beating around the bush here. They're truly dreadful results for the Labour Party. And I think of the hundreds of councillors and Welsh Assembly members and members of the Scottish Parliament who've given their lives to their communities, and it is heart-wrenching what's happened.
And you accept it's your fault, not theirs?
Absolutely.
Right, so what are you going to change?
Absolutely. I think that there are two big changes that we need to make in order to lead this country forward. Firstly, is we have got to stop the unnecessary mistakes. And secondly, we have got to set out what this party and this government is for and a more hopeful vision for the future for this country.
I mean, on those two things, I mean, stopping mistakes, I mean, you didn't plan to make mistakes, you just made them. Maybe because you're not quite up to it. You know, and in terms of laying out the vision, I mean, that should have been done 2 years ago.
You just asked me how we should change, and I've set out two absolutely critical things we need to do, because what people want, the British public understand that change can be hard. But they have felt over the last 20 years, from the financial crisis to COVID and Brexit and the cost of living crisis, they are paying the price. And they want to know that their lives and their children's lives will be better, that their kids will ever have a chance of getting a good job or a foot on the housing ladder. And where are the jobs of the future going to come from? And we have to set that out much more clearly than we have done before, because the voters have given us a resounding verdict that we are not good enough.
So you're not saying you'll change direction, that you should move more leftwards or more rightwards, you should chase the Green vote or the Reform vote, you'll just carry on as you are and hope that you can communicate it better?
No, I think a bidding war between the left and the right, I think the vast majority of people are not at the extreme right or left of politics, but also the voters will sniff you out if they think you're just moving to try and get
But if you keep doing what you're doing,
what we believe,
and just communicating it better,
that's not
good enough.
I think it's much more than better communication, although better communication is important. It is about stopping mistakes and setting out what we're for and hope that the future can be better, that there is optimism in this country. And I believe that every young person having a chance to be earning or learning is a big vision for the future. And I believe in my role, this country, outside of Silicon Valley, is the second best country for AI, and we can seize those jobs of the future.
But at what
That's
point
the vision we have to be setting
forward. Are you going to look at, Reform fought this election on vote Reform, get rid of Keir Starmer. Reform are the winners of this election so far. Every piece of political research shows he is very, very personally unpopular. At what point are you just going to
People have, I think, been given, from the Tories saying austerity or changing their leader would solve the problems, it didn't. From Brexit, it didn't solve problems, it made them worse. And Reform, they're easy answers. We have got to show people that there's realistic hope that the future can be better.
But it was bad last year, it's worse this year. If it carries on like this next year, you're just going to carry on and say, no, we're not going to change the leader.
I think Keir Starmer is the right man. When his back is against the wall, we have seen time and time again, he has gripped it and he has changed. And I remember back in 2019, nobody ever thought the Labour Party had a chance in hell of winning the next election. And he focused on the country and what the people want. And that is what we've got to do now.
You've got colleagues in the parliamentary party and even in the cabinet who just think the game's up. That this is denial.
I don't believe...
And that you need to have an orderly transition, so there's time for Andy Burnham to find a seat, come back, fight an election with whoever else is going to...
The timetable is just a sort of process veneer for a leadership challenge and for internal infighting. And the public...
Do you think Andy Burnham should be allowed back in if he finds a seat?
I think Andy...
Or blocked again?
Look, when he's finished his term in Manchester, it'd be up to him what he does. That's what I think.
That's 2 years away.
And what, he has got the same challenge in the Manchester City region, with swathes of seats going to Reform, the Green vote rising in Manchester as we have in the rest of the country. He's one of our star players in Manchester, and we have to, the public will not forgive us if we do
star
exactly...
player that you're keeping off the pitch.
No, we want him on the pitch. Look at what he's doing in Greater Manchester. I think once he's finished his term, the choice will be his. But if we start focusing on our own jobs and futures and not the country's jobs and future, I don't think the public will forgive us. And if we slip into what the Tories did, we won't be solving the actual challenge, which is how do we earn our living and pay our way in the world? How do we provide decent public services with an ageing population? How do we cope with a volatile world now?
Well, maybe go away and work it out. But Liz Kendall, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We'll be back in a moment, but first let's go to Jackie in Cardiff, where the reverberations of Labour's losses today are certainly being felt.
Thanks, Christian. And yes, here in Wales, the election results have turned decades of history on its head. For the past century, Labour has won here and has controlled the Welsh Parliament since its creation 27 years ago. Now the nationalist Plaid Cymru party is the largest in the Senedd, with Reform UK Wales pushing Labour into third place. The First Minister, Eluned Morgan, is just one of many Labour members who lost their seat. Labour's wipeout here is a story echoed across the UK today. Later in the programme, we'll be speaking to our correspondents in Scotland, the northwest and northeast of England, and in London to look more closely at what's been happening there. But let's start here in Cardiff, and this report from our Wales correspondent, Andy Davis.
A political revolution has just happened in Wales. And for the Welsh Independence Party, Plaid Cymru, it is the biggest moment in their 100-year history.
This is a moment 100 years in the making, a moment in which we hold the promise and ambition of a nation in our hands.
Once in the margins, so long in the shadow of Labour, now sweeping it aside, some in disbelief, others trying to contain their emotions.
This is a truly historic day in Wales.
Plaid's leader, Srina Purworth, watched as his party kept ahead of second-place Reform all day. Now he stands on the cusp of becoming the party's first ever First Minister.
Today is about the future of our communities here and our nation as a whole. As the story of this election has emerged today, it has become clear that Wales demanded that change of leadership.
25,571.
In Newport, Reform started well, edging Plaid's vote share in a key constituency for them. But in Merthyr, where Nigel Farage had campaigned relentlessly with messages around immigration and scrapping Labour's default 20 miles an hour policy, it was Plaid Cymru who won the wider constituency vote. So many close battles, but Reform are now confirmed as a formidable political force in Wales, and their leader Dan Thomas will enter the Welsh Parliament surrounded by colleagues.
For decades, the Welsh valleys and cities such as Islwyn and Newport have been ignored, let down and forgotten by the old parties of Wales. Labour's historic demise in their heartland is a lesson for all politicians to never forget the people who elected you.
For Labour, it is monumental.
Welsh Labour has today suffered a catastrophic result.
However loudly the loss had been trailed, few had predicted one of this scale. A pact between party and country, nurtured over 100 years, now ripped to pieces within a day. Labour will no longer lead the government here. Labour, remarkably, has lost Wales.
It ends a century of Labour winning in Wales, and the party will need to take a really hard look at itself and understand the depth of the challenge that we face.
Even in the strongest of old heartlands like Tredegar, birthplace of Labour titan Aneirin Nye Bevan, considered father of the NHS, Labour was wiped out. Reform hoovering up votes, as we discovered outside this polling station yesterday. Is this the first time you've switched from Labour?
First time ever.
Yes. And you've gone to Reform.
Yeah.
How difficult was it not to vote Labour if you've been doing that all your life?
At this point, not very difficult at all. I think it's an absolute shambles the way things are going.
And then there's the squeeze from Plaid.
I voted Plaid.
And why did you vote for Plaid?
I just feel like I don't want Reform to be the party that's, voted in, and I feel like a bit of Welsh independence is always a good idea.
My main factor was making sure, hopefully, that reform doesn't get in.
As for the Greens, they enter the Welsh Parliament for the very first time with 2 seats. Yet more change in this historic realignment of Welsh politics.
Plaid Cymru now stands ready to take the necessary steps to form the next government of Wales.
All eyes now on what a Plaid Cymru government might look like.
And Andy is with me now. I mean, extraordinary is overused, but it sort of works today, doesn't it?
Yes, and I think we have to step back and consider the enormity of what's just happened. Labour's century of electoral dominance, unrivalled by any other party in the democratic world, has just gone. And in sort of ancient party strongholds like Blaenau Gwent, that was Nye Bevan, Michael Foot territory, not a single Labour Senedd member remains. It is extraordinary to witness. It's been a really good day for Reform. They are now the main opposition here in Wales. But for Plaid Cymru, it is huge. And that messaging of theirs that they are the agents of change and the party to stop reform clearly cut through with so many voters on the left. A long time ago, they used to be dismissed as a Blaid Bach. That's the Welsh for the little party. Well, now they're coming into the Senedd with the most amount of seats, the largest vote share, and talking about being ready to govern. It feels momentous because it is.
Andy, thanks very much. Well, now to talk about this historic result in Wales, I'm joined here in the Senedd by Delyth Jewell, the Deputy Leader of Plaid. Andy said it's historic. You won't disagree with that, will you?
Oh, I think it is historic and a real moment in time, because people have voted clearly for change, but not just change for change's sake. You know, this is a moment when we will actually have a government, I hope, that we will have in Wales that will be fighting Wales's corner. And that is something that we will be unashamed of doing, and it's something we're really excited about.
I mean, polling suggests this was as much about stopping reform as supporting Plaid. What do you say to that?
It's interesting because I think there's a temptation, which I can understand, particularly maybe outside Wales, to look at this through the prism of Westminster parties. And the influence that that will have had. Actually, there's a very distinct Welsh story which has been happening here. And I think, of course, stopping reform
very well here, didn't they?
And the majority of people in Wales wanted to stop that happening. So I accept that that was a part of the dynamic here. But as well as that, there was very much a positive vote in favour of Plaid Cymru and our message that this is not as good as things should get for Wales, and that actually we've got plans. This is the start of something big and exciting for Wales.
But you have to deliver quickly, don't you? You know, the lessons from Labour's loveless landslide is that voters want delivery quickly now, don't they? They're impatient for change.
They do, and I think what we can learn from UK Labour is that change was a slogan that was an empty word for them because it was not backed up by a vision. There was no guiding principle, which is why Keir Starmer now is so, he's lost all moorings because there was nothing guiding it. We will always be fighting for a better future for Wales and the citizens living here.
Every party said they'd be fighting for a better future for Wales.
But we're the ones that people have listened to.
It could all be short-lived, though, couldn't it? You know, Reform got 1% of the vote at the last Senedd elections. We see them today. They're now the second party in the Senedd. Very confident that next time they overturn your victory.
Well, I can't see that happening. I think, again, the majority of people in Wales have shown clearly that that is not the future that they would want for Wales. But look, if we are lucky enough to form a government here in Wales, it will be incumbent on us to not just have the trust of the people of Wales, but to maintain that trust and to show that actually there's a better way for Wales in the future, led by Plaid Cymru.
I mean, the result shows just how polarised Wales is now, doesn't it? And that makes governing difficult.
Plaid Cymru means the Party of Wales. That's what the words mean in English. And we will look to be, again, if we are able to form a government which looks to be, it's what the people of Wales would want, we will want to be a government for everyone in Wales and to unify people behind us.
Very quickly, if you would, your party leaders repeatedly said this is not an independence election. Where is independence now?
Well, look, Our long-term goal very much is for Wales to be a normal nation in terms of having independence. But look,
long-term, not short-term.
Well, no, we are ready to govern in Wales now to fix the problems facing our health service, the fact that the cost of living crisis. But look, in terms of where Wales's future will be, that will be for the people of Wales to decide. But this is something which we have never shied away from. Again, we would want to be like any normal country in the world, which would be an independent country, working closely with our neighbours.
Jules, thank you very much for talking to us today. Well, that is all for now. Back to Krishnan in Westminster.
Thanks, Jackie. Well, now to the Scottish parliamentary elections, where votes are still being counted. The SNP looks set to remain the largest party in Holyrood at Labour's expense, but may not achieve an overall majority, losing 2 seats to the Scottish Greens in their first ever wins in Holyrood. This is how the new Scottish Parliament is shaping up. The SNP vote share is down, while Reforms is up significantly, but it's not clear who will come in second place. Our Scotland correspondent Catherine Sampson reports.
Before even the first handful of results were declared, the mood in SNP camp was optimistic. John Swinney and his wife Elizabeth cheered into his count in Perth by supporters.
On course for a majority, Mr Swinney?
Well, we're keeping an eye on the results. There's not many come out so far, but we're keeping a very close eye on it.
All eyes were then on Glasgow, the scene of Scottish Labour triumph at the general election just 2 years ago. Today, worried faces, tears wiped away. Before even 7 seats had been declared, Anna Sarwar was trying to put a brave face on things, but came out to concede he'd been comprehensively beaten.
My party is hurting, we're disappointed, we advocate for change, we didn't win that argument, but it's my job to hold us together, and that's the job I intend to do, and we will continue to fight for the change we believe Scotland so desperately needs.
Before this campaign, he called for Keir Starmer to go. An attempt to distance himself from Labour woes at Westminster simply didn't work.
Are you angry, Mr Starmer, at Keir Starmer?
By the time John Swinney was delivering his own victory speech, he was confident enough to call what the polls have been predicting for months.
It's becoming clear that the Scottish National Party is going to emerge as the largest party in this election campaign.
Thank you so much.
The largest party, yes, but 65 is the magic number for a majority.
Will independence be off the table if there's no majority?
I want to make sure that independence is pursued at all times.
How will you do that without a majority?
Well, we've got to wait and see what the makeup of the Scottish Parliament is at the end of the day.
But without a majority, there'll be no push.
Well, we'll see what the outcome of the election is.
The Scottish Greens delivered one of the biggest shocks today by ousting the SNP's Angus Robertson, a loss he endured while standing next to a candidate dressed as a giant bird, as Lorna Slater claimed her party's first ever constituency seat.
We are hopeful of returning the largest ever number of Greens to Holyrood today, as voters choose to vote Green all over Scotland, and I can't wait to get back to work.
And it seems constituencies are a bit like buses. You wait decades for one, then 2 come along at once. Half an hour later, another Green gain in Glasgow. At the other end of the political spectrum, the extent of Reform's rise in Scotland is still to be determined, as proportional list votes are finalised, and we wait to discover if the polls that placed them second match up with real-life results. This is still a moving picture here tonight, certainly in terms of the influence of Reform, and of course, why that matters, because when we get those results in from the regional list votes that are being counted, we'll be able to see to what extent the arrival of these newcomers has fragmented the pro-UK or anti-independence vote, something that would help the SNP. Nevertheless, this is an achievement for John Swinney. He described it as a precious win, a third decade in power for his party. But where he will run into difficulty in the coming days is this question about the majority, the 65 seats. The predictions are they're not going to hit that, and it was his choice, his strategy to make that about a mandate for pushing for independence. So we'll start to hear things about how there'll still be a pro-independence majority in the Parliament when you take the SNP and the Scottish Greens together, but that is not new. Now, in terms of the other parties, you know, Scottish Liberal Democrats quite happy today. Ed Davies flying up to Scotland tonight. We'll wait and see what happens with the Scottish Conservative vote. In terms of Scottish Labour, what a lot of soul searching is going to be going on here. Some insiders in the party are saying some people are trying to persuade Anna Sarwar to stay on as leader. Of course, you know, you heard he wasn't going to be stepping down. Others in opposition parties have been telling me, though, that they simply cannot see a world where that is sustainable over the course of this weekend. Just a quick bit of breaking news for you. It's just coming in. Reform UK winning their first Scottish Parliament seats. Let me just have a look at what's happening there. I can't see the full details, but hopefully we'll be able to bring you a bit more on that later.
Thanks, Catherine. Well, what some people are seeing as a vote of no confidence in the government is happening across England, where Labour is expected to lose 60% of the council seats that it was defending. In the city of Manchester, they were mauled by the Greens, and across Labour's traditional heartlands in the surrounding areas, places like Wigan, Halton and Tameside, Reform UK picked up seat after seat. Nigel Farage turned up in the Merseyside town of St Helens. That Reform has now also taken control of to celebrate. Our North of England correspondent Claire Fallon was there. Claire.
Well, Krish, this is one of the places long considered a Labour stronghold that we can add on to that list of places that are going to Reform, where it will now be Nigel Farage's party running things at the town hall. The results are actually still coming in here in St Helens this evening. It's an all-out election, so they've got a lot of them to get through. But what we can say is that Reform have now done enough. They have won enough of those seats for them to have overall control, while for Labour, it has been defeat after defeat. I was going to say to you that it was looking like a total wipeout for the Labour Party, but actually in the last few minutes, they have won their first 2 seats on St Helens Council. That is so far down on where they were. So little wonder then that this is where Nigel Farage came earlier to hold a press conference to talk about all of their wins. It was held in the upstairs room of a pub, and I managed to get a question to him. Do you think these results mean the end of Keir Starmer as Prime Minister? And you are virtually in Andy Burnham's backyard here. Do you think all of this would be different if it were him in charge of the Labour Party?
We've just fought a campaign with our main slogan, Vote Reform, Get Starmer Out. I think that's been quite effective. And even though these are local elections, we all know that national politics has a massive, massive impact on these things. Look, my own belief is he won't be there by midsummer. On Andy Burnham, well, name me a seat in the northwest that is now a safe Labour seat and a safe option for him to take.
Talking of Andy Burnham, in the last few moments I've had a message ping into me about a statement from Steve Rotherham this evening. He's the Labour Metro Mayor for Merseyside, for the Liverpool City region. He is also, I would say, Andy Burnham's closest friend in politics. His statement about the state of the Labour Party and what they need to do is pretty striking. This has to be a wake-up call, he says. If we don't respond, if we don't reconnect, we risk letting down the very people we came into politics to fight for. Adapt or die, he says, not much of a slogan, but it is the reality. Something similar said to me, actually, by the now former Labour leader of St Helens Council at the count earlier on today, when I asked him about whether it is now that Keir Starmer needs to go.
There's absolutely no doubt. That's what we felt on the doorstep. I don't think he's been given a fair crack at the whip, but at the end of the day, we're not in a game here. It's really, really important. These are people's lives. We've seen what's happened with reform-run councils up and down the country, so we can't afford to wait. So it's important, I think, that the party listen to what residents are saying on the doorstep, and we need to act quickly.
Massive shifts that we've seen here today, and inevitably more big shifts to come.
Thanks, Claire. Well, it was a similar story in the northeast, with Labour losing after 50 years its heartlands of Sunderland to Reform, and most of the seats contested in Newcastle to the Greens. Andrew Misra is there. Andrew.
Well, Sunderland was once the largest shipbuilding town in the world, and I think it's fair to say that Labour's ship has been well and truly sunk here today. They had run this council since 1974. That's when it was created. Reform, before today, didn't even have a councillor here, and yet now they run the council. They're in complete control. The Labour leader here, former Labour leader now, lost his seat. That was also the case in Newcastle and in Gateshead, where Reform also now have a majority. They won South Tyneside too, as well as winning all of the seats available today in Hartlepool. We've already heard the Labour MP there calling for Keir Starmer to resign. Underpinning all of this, though, you feel, is the spirit of Brexit. Nearly 10 years ago, believe it or not, since the EU referendum, and most areas of the northeast voted to leave, and by quite big margins at that. Sunderland was particularly symbolic of the Brexit vote. And so perhaps 10 years on, if that was the political earthquake, then maybe a decade on, these are the aftershocks.
Andrew Misra. Now, in London, it's shaping up to be something of a breakthrough for the Green Party, winning control of councils, while Labour defied some expectations and held on to some London boroughs like Hammersmith and Fulham and Ealing. In the north and southeast of the capital, it lost to the Greens. The Conservatives also had a better night in London, generally holding off Reform, which they struggled to do in the rest of the country. Our senior political correspondent, Paul McNamara, joins us from Hackney. Paul.
Yeah, we haven't got a full set of results yet here, but Greens are on the precipice of being in control. So it won't surprise you to hear by now that Labour are facing a bit of a drubbing in the capital too. 21 of 32 London boroughs were Labour held before today. Now, we haven't got a full set of results, but even the Conservatives robbed a council away from Labour. Westminster City Council. Reform never had a hold in London before, now they hold a council. But the party that really seems on the rise here is the Greens. At lunchtime, they took their first London mayoralty here in Hackney. Up the road in Waltham Forest. Before today, they never had a seat. Now they've got 32 seats and overall control of the council. Now look, London is significant for two reasons. Firstly, about a third of all council seats up for grabs today are in London. So whatever happens here echoes large in that national picture. Second of all, there are 75 MPs in London, 59 of which are Labour. That is 59 MPs that got given a punch on the nose by the electorate today. 59 angry MPs that will now be moaning on WhatsApp and in parliamentary tea rooms, moaning and talking about possibilities other than Keir Starmer. I caught up with the Green Party leader Zach Polanski earlier on when he was here doing a bit of a victory lap, to be honest with you. He's called for Keir Starmer to go. He's also making it absolutely clear his ambitions, the ambitions of his party, stretch way beyond this capital city.
This is a historic victory. This is the first time the Green Party have ever won a directly elected mayor. And two-party politics is not just dying, it is dead and it is buried. And actually, whether it's here that Labour have been rejected or whether we're seeing around the country, it's very clear that the new politics is the Green Party versus Reform. I said that the Green Party were going to replace Labour. That's exactly what we did in Gorton and Denton. It's what we've done in Hackney, and we're seeing that right across the country. In fact, in almost all of our seats, right across the country, whether they're target or non-target, the Green Party vote share is rising. And what I see all across the country are people saying they're feeling hopeful for politics for the first time. Some people, yes, were disillusioned with Labour and are now voting for the Green Party, but lots of people are voting for the Green Party for the very first time who didn't vote before, and that's really exciting.
We are expecting a result here in Hackney imminently. We are expecting a result that yet again probably isn't going to go Keir Starmer's way.
Paul McNamara in Hackney. Now let's take a look at some of the other stories from today. Uncertainty over the Iran ceasefire has continued after the US said it had attacked 2 Iranian oil tankers, and Iran accused America of what it called a reckless military adventure. Yesterday, both countries blamed each other for an exchange of fire in the Strait of Hormuz. Donald Trump, though, has insisted the ceasefire is holding, as Harry Fawcett reports.
Further ruptures today in the increasingly strained ceasefire around the Strait of Hormuz. The US disabling 2 empty Iranian oil tankers that it said were heading for port in Iran. 2 days earlier, it had struck another tanker that it said was also trying to defy its blockade. In between those strikes, last night sustained exchanges of fire. The US said 3 of its destroyers were attacked. Iran said its forces were responding to US attacks on ships and on Iranian territory, accusing Washington of choosing reckless military adventure with a diplomatic solution on the table.
The action carried out last night was both a blatant violation of international law and the UN Charter, as well as a violation of the ceasefire, and it was not the first time either. Of course, as you're aware, the country's defenders responded with full force, struck them hard and repelled their aggression.
President Trump said the world-class destroyers made their way through the strait unharmed, that Iranian missiles and drones were knocked down and incinerated, attack boats sent to the bottom of the sea.
We blew them away. They trifled. I call that a trifle. I'll let you know when there's no ceasefire. You won't have to know. If there's no ceasefire, you're not going to have to know. You're just going to have to look at one big glow coming out of Iran. And they better sign their agreement fast.
Earlier in this conflict, Iran was accused of restaging the seizure of a tanker for the cameras. Today it released images of a new capture that also seemed designed as a demonstration, especially given this vessel, the Ocean Koi, was sanctioned by the US in February as Iran-linked. Tehran's somewhat inscrutable reasoning that it had been trying to disrupt oil exports and exploit regional conditions. The US Secretary of State, on the second day of his trip to Italy, was accusing Iran of doing the exploiting, not for the first time urging other nations to intervene.
The normalizing of their controlling of international waterway is both illegal and it's just something that's unacceptable. And the world has to start asking itself, what is it willing to do if Iran tries to normalize a control of an international waterway? I think that's unacceptable. But we're expecting a response from them today at some point.
A response, that is, to this week's latest US proposal for an interim deal that would free up traffic through the strait while entering detailed negotiations on Iran's nuclear program and sanctions relief. Iran earlier called the document a US wish list, but says it is still reviewing it.
Now, hundreds of children in England with Duchenne muscular dystrophy will be able to walk and use their arms for longer after a drug for the severe muscle wasting disease was given the green light to be rolled out on the NHS. Givinostat will be made available to patients with Duchenne who are still able to walk after its manufacturer struck a commercial deal with NHS England. Campaigners have welcomed the move, but said the process has been agonising, with many families left without access to the drug while their child's condition got worse. The chief executive of South East Water has resigned over the fallout from major supply outages in Kent and Sussex that left thousands of customers unable to access tap water, use showers or flush their toilets last year. David Hinton's resignation follows the departure of the non-executive chair, Chris Train, last week, both coming in the wake of highly critical select committee reports into what happened.
After the break, the upending of Welsh politics, with nationalist Plaid Cymru expected to become the largest party in the Senedd. We talked to a veteran of Welsh Labour about how he and his party lost Wales.
Welcome to your crash course in saving on car insurance. The good people of Britain are driving around and suddenly they get hit with a nasty car insurance quote. That's why it's our job to stay one step ahead, bring them our best deals and save the day. Better Off begins with Money Supermarket.
When it comes to seriously good mayonnaise, it has to be Heinz. Try Heinz mayo flavours. In store now.
Experience amazing before you arrive. Lexus NX plug-in hybrid.
Welcome to my crib. Let me show you what I've done with the place. We got the fridge stacked. Oven ready leftovers.
Show off your savvy. IKEA, the wonderful everyday.
Rio Mare. Italy's favourite prime quality tuna with selected olive oil. A firm yet tender texture with an unmistakable flavour. Rio Mare. Real Italian taste.
Hi, check-in?
All passengers, last call for check-in. Check-in is now closed.
What a load of malarkey. We keep things simple, like 80 gigabytes for £10 on a SIM plan you can leave anytime. Search Smarty Mobile.
With Schwarzkopf Live, we go for it. We colour at home, our way. And now the new anti-damage system will help protect my hair. The result? Iconic vibrant colour. We switch it up. We own the moment. Every shade sets the mood. With new Schwarzkopf Live.
More caffeine. Arriving today with Amazon Prime. That's off your mind. So now you can worry about how long has that been in there?
Somebody save me.
Knock, knock. Aldi can save you. £35 on this big shop. Aldi, always finding ways to save.
Life is what you paint it. Dulux.
Story in the making here.
Oh, tremendous!
The Adobe Women's FA Cup on Channel 4. This is pure football. Liverpool v Brighton and Hove Albion, Sunday at 12.
Welcome back. Now, if you asked an historian where the genesis of the NHS was, they might point to the Tredegar Medical Aid Society. The local MP, Aneurin Bevan, used it as a blueprint when he was Minister for Health in 1945. Last night, Labour lost that area, the seat of not only Nye Bevan, but also later of Michael Foot, the 11.1% of the vote, unable, even under PR, to get a single seat. Well, Alan Davis, who has been a member of the Welsh Senedd for the past 20 years, was the leading Labour candidate and joins me now. A devastating personal moment for you as well as a political one. Tell me what went through your mind when you realised the scale of the defeat here.
We were at the verification last night when we realised just how deep this defeat was going to be. And I kept asking people, you know, where are the Labour votes? There were areas being counted what we knew were strong Labour areas, and we simply couldn't see any Labour votes. We still thought we had sufficient support this morning when we arrived at the count to hold on to one seat, but of course we didn't. And this is not simply one of those examples of midterm blues or a protest vote. This is a very deep turning away from a party that people have felt almost a cultural attachment to for over a century.
Exactly. I mean, the areas we've talked about, Nye Bevan, Michael Foot. What has gone wrong here?
Well, Labour, we may argue, has taken people for granted, but we haven't delivered for those people either. You know, I think it's time that the UK government governed with traditional Labour values. And that in Wales...
But Welsh Labour must take its responsibility here, mustn't it?
It certainly must. And it was quite striking, I thought, when you were interviewing Delith earlier, she could have been Carwyn Jones a decade ago, talking about standing up for Wales, talking about standing up for not just the values, but the interests of Wales. And we seem to have walked away from that, and we've taken all those things for granted. So I think there's going to have to be a very serious consideration of how this has happened, how we've allowed this to happen, but we also need to recognise that this is a historical moment, but it's important not to become a terminal moment.
Well, just to be clear on who is to blame, your Deputy First Minister said today we cannot blame the voters.
No.
Who, in your view, is to blame?
I've been very, very clear. This is a defeat that was manufactured in Downing Street. And what I want to see now is a process being put in place to enable us to move forward from where we've been under the leadership of Keir Starmer. I think Keir Starmer has to leave office, and I think we need a process to replace him.
And do you think he should leave now?
I think we need a process to replace him. We need an orderly transition of power. But what we need to do as well in Wales, in Welsh Labour, is to recognise that the people I took great pride in representing until earlier today want us to stand up for those communities. They want us to speak up for Wales, and they want Wales to be treated as an equal part of the United Kingdom.
But what went wrong in terms of, I mean, as I say, Welsh Labour has to take responsibility, one assumes, for a devastated NHS here, poor educational outcomes, poverty.
Absolutely.
But why are you laying it on the door of number 10?
Because what we haven't had in the last 2 years is a relationship where that government enables and support for Wales and empowers Wales. It's not right that we don't have the same resources per head, for example, as you'd have in Northern Ireland or Scotland or England. It's not fair that Wales doesn't have the same rights and responsibilities that other parts of the British Isles. So what we want to see, and what I think is really important for people to trust us again, is that we take these matters seriously. We stand up for Wales, and then we have governments here and in Westminster that govern according to the timeless, if you like, principles of democratic
I mean, briefly,
socialism.
how would you describe Keir Starmer's relationship with Welsh Labour?
I think he's got a bit of a blind spot for Wales, if I'm quite honest with you. I don't think he sees Wales in the same way as he looks towards Scotland or Northern Ireland.
Disregards it?
Disregard is as good a word as any, I suppose. But what we need is a coherent labour movement across the United Kingdom that is able to recognise the importance of supporting each part of the United Kingdom. And we haven't had that.
And very, very briefly, I mean, what does it mean to you to lose your connection with the people of Wales, who in many ways built Labour?
It's a personal loss for me, for Alan Davis, but it's a more profound political loss for Labour.
Alan Davis, thanks very much for talking to us today. Now, just to update what Catherine was talking about earlier, Reform have won their first 5 seats in the Scottish Parliament, with results still coming in. That is all we have time for this evening. We are back at 6:30 tomorrow night. We will leave you as the sun sets on Cardiff Bay, and on it a century of history of Labour and Wales being intertwined. Tomorrow morning will bring the first light of a new era. Good evening.
Good evening. Our weather's looking pretty mixed this weekend. I'll have more about that in just a moment's time. First, though, Climate Watch. And today, Copernicus, Europe's climate agency, announced that Earth has just had its joint third warmest April on record. No surprise when you see the extent of the orange and red colours across the map, but some places have been cooler than average in April, notably parts of Canada, North Africa, the Middle East and Eastern Europe. And it's also been warm in our oceans, recording the second warmest sea surface temperatures on record. And of course, the warming of the atmosphere and the oceans is primarily being driven by climate change. Now, tonight across the UK, there'll be a band of cloud across northern England and southern parts of Scotland. There'll be some longer spells of rain from that, heavy bursts in places. For the rest of us, any showers will tend to fade away to leave it largely dry with clear spells, but there could be a few patches of mist and fog across southern and eastern parts of England and Wales by the end of the night. Coldest tonight in Scotland, 3 or 4 in towns and cities there, frosty in the countryside, but for the rest of us, temperatures typically holding up at 6 to 11 degrees. So tomorrow, any early steady rain over southeast Scotland and northeast England will pull away into the North Sea. And much of the UK will see some decent spells of sunshine. There will be heavy showers breaking out, though, through the day across Wales, the Midlands, into northern parts of England, a couple towards southwest England as well, and the breeze will tend to pick up across the south. Warmest tomorrow for southern parts of England and Wales, low 20s there, but further northwards a chillier feel, just 7 to 13 degrees for most places, below average for this time of year. Then on Sunday, there'll be cloud and occasional rain lingering across the far south of England, the Channel Islands too, still a little bit breezy. Elsewhere, it's a fine and dry start with some fairly lengthy spells of sunshine, but by the end of the day, cloud and rain and a brisk breeze will sink into northern parts of Scotland, and it will be chilly with temperatures a couple of degrees below average for this time of year. Enjoy your weekend. Goodbye.
Tonight, delivering their verdicts on the week, Gogglebox is new at 9. Mama and Papa Syriacs are popping into first dates at 10. But blister plasters at the ready for a perfect pub walk next.
History tells us one thing, that blood and fire and retribution always happen. And now it's coming for us.
Brand new drama from Russell T Davies, Tiptoe on Channel 4, coming soon.
What's up, Bonda?
Hey. Walter presents Panda on More 4. Stream or watch tonight at 9.
The week's critique from the sofa. Gogglebox is parking up here at 9 o'clock. But stretching those legs first as we're taking in the sights and talking through the problems of the world. Chris Packham joins Alexander Armstrong now as they rendezvous through Kent on another perfect pub walk.
Channel 4 Escapism, sponsored by Fred Olsen Cruise Lines.